I love your home already, and I haven't even seen it. Does that sound crazy? It's not. When we improve our surroundings, we simultaneously empower ourselves, which means every inch of space within your reach right now is an opportunity to tell the story you want to be living. Tell me that's not its own kind of wonderful. I have spent the last 15 years consulting clients and their homes through the wisdom of feng shui, intentional design, and some crystal clear communication. And you know what happens when you bring those three together? Life-changing magic. Your home is already in a conversation with you, so why not learn how to merge that awareness with some simple, straightforward, and smart action to co-create the life you want? I'm Amanda Gibby Peters, and I am here to help you learn how. Welcome to House Therapy. So if you haven't listened to last week's episode, we are springboarding off it today, so you might want to go back and give it a quick listen. If you did catch it, you might have pushed up your sleeves for a little spring or deep house cleaning, and my guess is for some of you, there's a little decluttering now in your forecast too. And while I think that spring or deep cleaning is easy enough, the elimination of anything in our surroundings, our home, our environment, well, it can quickly get tricky and sometimes even worrisome. So I want to unpack that in today's episode. So the reason that I typically caution against really big purges or those one fell swoop decluttering weekends is it rarely has to do with the amount of geography that'll be covered, although that alone can make, I think, that goal super exhausting on a physical level. It has more to do with understanding predecessor or previous chi. So predecessor chi is energy that is remaining or lingering from someone or something that has been in that space previously. And when we relegate things to a closet or space because we don't know what to do with them, there is usually an emotion or feeling driving that postponed decision. Like maybe we're in a hurry, or we feel overwhelmed, maybe we're fatigued, or there's a lot of frustration involved. Sometimes we can start future tripping about regret, or we feel like we're out of options or at our wits' end. Sometimes there's a fear of guilt looming or a pervading sense of obligation around some of the things. And then, of course, worry will meddle itself into the decision process plenty. So if you ask yourself why something shoved in a drawer or tucked way back in the closet or boxed in the garage is still hanging around, and my guess, you're going to get a whiff of that original feeling and immediately, without even realizing it, feel some resistance to revisiting it. And here's the quicksand. Instead of confronting it, it's easier to just keep postponing dealing with it, right? And this is why I think when we attempt to tackle a closet of clutter, like we look at it, maybe we complain about the sheer volume of it, we're missing the real saboteur, if you will, in the room. It's that predecessor chi that I just mentioned. And in this case, that predecessor chi is past you confronting today you. So the energy that we're in when we store something, right? Are we in a hurry? Are we overwhelmed? Are we fatigued? Are we future tripping? Are we feeling guilty or worried? That energy remains with the thing vibrationally. Then when those things aren't getting used or revisited, that energy just sits and it tends to compound itself. And that's why we can feel so stuck when we confront the clutter, because we're dealing with all that stagnant energy on top of some past feeling, state, or version of ourselves. And when you're looking at a whole closet of past versions of yourself, that's a lot. And that's why we tend to avoid it. Now, just for clarification, is this true for everyone all of the time? Of course not. In fact, I think all of us can relate to a moment in our lives when we had like just this radical change of heart, or maybe we were up against a deadline and we were just done. We done with a habit, a person, being tolerant of things getting in our way, or even just a way of being. We just suddenly have this head or heart that's buzzing with clarity, and we get into that can't stop, won't stop momentum. And sometimes clutter can be that thing too, where we're finally detached from it and we can purge away. But if you have a case of chronic clutter, you now have hopefully a better idea of why it is so easy to entertain excuses and why those things might end up sitting around even longer. So I want you to try this instead. I want you, the next time you approach a hotspot in your space, think of tidying as an opportunity to evaluate, what do I want circulating in my life? And I want you to consider that every single thing is its own form of persuasion. So it's either encouraging or discouraging what you want in and out of your life. Because in some ways, we do get out of life what we tolerate. And so change begins when we let go of things that are perhaps reinforcing patterns and feelings that leave us with this bone deep ambivalence. And to hopefully help you climb out of some of that overwhelm and indecision and get onto some higher ground, I have a list of 20 questions that I will often employ when I'm working with clients and their clutter. So, if you're ready for a different conversation about, around, with your stuff, start here. Grab a few that resonate with you and see where it gets you. All right, question 1. Does this thing make my life easier? What does it mean to me? How does it make me feel? Question number 2. What memories does this thing bring up for me? Question 3. Who gave it to me? What does this remind me of? Question 4. Does this inspire and lift my energy, or does it distract or even demand my attention and energy? I love this next one. Why did I originally buy it? Would I buy this again today? And if so, how much would I be willing to pay for it? Is it useful? When was the last time I actually used this? Question 7, does this serve an immediate purpose in my life or in our house? I love this one too. Do I feel guilty or scared to get rid of this? Question 9, why have I been keeping this? One that I think is fabulous to ask yourself before you bring something home is question 10. What kind of maintenance or energy does this require? Right? If you're at the checkout and you realize that something you're buying needs to be washed or cared for, or maintained, and you're already super busy, pump the brakes. Question 11. Do I have something similar already? Question 12. Does this still fit? And when I wear this, does it make me feel good? And by the way, that question, does this still fit? It's not specific to clothes only. You can ask that about your books. You can ask that about the decor in your home. You can ask that about the things that you tend to buy or collect that maybe you've outgrown. Question 13. Has this already been given one pass go in a past decluttering session? So this is one of the strategies I employ all the time in my own closet. When I'm ambivalent about getting rid of a piece of clothing, I sometimes will hold on to it, noting that if I haven't worn it by the next time I do a clutter closet edit, it needs to go. Question 14. Could I replace it if I had to? Now, I don't want this to be interpreted as being wasteful, but when I am in a client's home and they've held on to something for 10 years and it's been in the garage or the attic or the deep recesses of a closet and it has not been used in a really long time, this is a good time to ask that question. Like, well, if you had to replace it, could you? Does my clutter or its chaos make me tired thinking about it? The reason that I love this question is because a lot of times clutter is going to generate resistance, and we've already talked about why. But what I like to sort of guide clients toward is this realization, like these shows that we see, tidying up, minimalists, home edit, any of those shows that are basically rearranging, purging, editing a space, when you see sort of that revival of someone's energy, it's because when we don't have all of the things around us that don't really match who we are, that aren't really in alignment with what we want to become, what we're trying to achieve in our lives, they're just things that can have its own type of fatiguing consequence. So, if thinking about your clutter makes you tired, then I promise you, as you begin purging and releasing and letting go, you're going to be reclaiming and gathering up some of the energy that you've loaned to those things in your space. Question 16. Do I crave more space in my home, more free time in my life? So, a lot of times we hold on to things that we think we might need or want later, but in fact, they're saying something completely different. So, allow me to translate for your clutter. I don't have the time or energy to do fill in the blank. So, if you're ready to level up, if you want to feel a little bit more productive, if you want to see what a little more energy might do for your life, just eliminate those conversations as much as possible by making the time to clear a few things out and giving this task that's been on your to-do list a little bit more of your energy. Question 17, am I fed up with all the things in my space? A lot of times, clients will tell me that they are just so frustrated with it all and they don't know where to start. So if this is you, let me just lean in and say there are a lot of really great places you can start. But universally speaking, I will often encourage people start in one of four places. One, the center of the home. The center of the home is that space that, if we were to look at the feng shui map together, you would see touches all the different areas of your life. And so it's a really efficient way to zhuzh up your entire life with one space, okay? Because anything you do in the middle of the space is going to ripple out into all areas of your life. The other three spaces we've talked about on the podcast, and that is anything that's happening in the entry space. You want opportunity and auspicious luck to be able to flow right into your home. So clearing up any clutter, any chaos happening here is going to allow better opportunities, possibilities, and energetic refreshments, if you will, to reach you. The bedroom, another great spot to check in with because it speaks so much to your personal energy and how you're showing up in the world. And when you prioritize your bedroom, you show up in the world and you expect to be prioritized too. I think that's just a really clean way to be aligned with that energy. Kind of like that pun there. And then the other space I would say is the kitchen, because the kitchen speaks to personal and financial energy, right? And so by tidying that up, you're improving those bottom lines. Okay, question 18. Am I comfortable inviting people into our home, or does my home stress me out and make me anxious, or does it embarrass me? And there's nothing wrong with having a space that you feel doesn't match how other people keep their homes. That's not what this is about. But what I find is it's a slippery slope when we start to say, well, I can't have people over because my house isn't perfect. And then this weird thing can happen where we start acquiring more things because we will fill our home to feel something, but we don't quite satiate that feeling that happens when we are around other people, when we're in conversation, when we are, emotionally connected. So if you're uncomfortable inviting people into your home, see if there are a few things you can do that might make that more possible. Okay, we're rounding to the last few questions. Is this worth taking up room from something, an experience, a feeling, an item that I would really love, use, or need? So the example I share often when this question is on the table is, would you buy something new, say an appliance or a piece of furniture? Would you acquire that new thing without scheduling or coordinating the removal of its predecessor, right? Like, let's say you were buying a new refrigerator. Would you let them bring in the refrigerator and leave the old one, or would you hope that they were going to haul the old one away, right? So, what I find often is when people are saying, I'm not experiencing anything new, I'm not having anything new come into my life, I kind of feel like I'm just in this stuck or stagnant space. One of the things that can be present in a home is like that every spot is filled. There aren't any open spaces. And we've talked about the power of open space, but we might say we want new things, but if we don't have room in our lives to receive them, it's a mixed signaling situation. So when you are looking at your space, just ask, is this worth taking up room from something else that maybe I would really love to have come into my life? And the last question I have for you is, am I waiting for the perfect day? So maybe I'm waiting for the new year or a full moon or Mercury retrograde, or this one is the most common, a full day without any obligations and zero distractions to get started, which, by the way, it's not happening. That full day with absolutely no distractions, if it does come around, it's very rarely. This is why I so strongly advocate for small efforts every day, because I think they're effectively better and they're super sustainable. So much more so than an overhaul that I think can really leave you exhausted, feeling mentally overwhelmed and fatigued, and like not really excited about a round two if there's a round two involved. So, if even one thing that I shared here today resonates, I want you to write it down. I want you to remember. I want you to come back to it whenever you feel your resolve dissolving. And as you begin the process of filtering through a drawer, a closet, a box, a room, trust your instincts. Pay attention to those first impressions. Those first impressions are really useful information. And then remember that only when we're letting go of things that we don't love, that we don't use, that we don't need, I'm not advocating minimalism. When we begin to let go of those things that we are just indifferent to, we get to reclaim the part of ourselves that's been attached to them. Now, if you want to go deeper into what clutter is costing you, a quick plug here, my 6-week course is a really fabulous look-see. In fact, we have an entire module that's dedicated to how clutter is affecting you based on where it lives in your home, both according to the room it's in and its placement on the feng shui map. And what I can tell you from experience is that when clients learn this one detail, they hover less over what they're getting rid of, and they stay super motivated by the opportunities that they're now aware of that they're moving toward. And just like that, it's another episode wrap. A million thanks for being here and listening today. And if you're not quite ready for this conversation to end, come find me on the gram. I'm at Amanda Gibby Peters, or grab a copy of my book, Simple Shui for Every Day, available at Amazon and Bookshop and anywhere you get your books. And if you want to work with me, check out simpleshui.com for all the ways we can make that happen. Cheers to marvelous week, sweets, and I hope to see you back here in a week. Until then, give that house of yours some big love for me.